Let's have a quick conversation about disability loans, what they are, what they're not, and how you can actually apply for a disability loan this year if you're interested in this type of loan. Okay. So, here are the key takeaways I want you to really pay attention to. If you think about disability loans, I want you to think about a personal loan, and you should not actually use you should not use this loan as a replacement for disability benefits. Okay, this is important. A disability loan is a personal loan, so you have to repay it over a certain number of months. Okay, and your eligibility for a disability loan depends on many factors like your credit score, income, and outstanding debt load. So your current debt load will actually play an important role when it comes to the approval process. Okay, before applying for a disability loan, check whether you qualify for advanced disability payments from the Social Security Administration. So disability loans can be useful tools for bridging the financial gap between applying for government disability benefits and also being approved, okay? And which can take actually months. So this is something to really consider. The approval is not automatic, okay? It's not. I'm speaking here about disability benefits because disability loans actually are approved faster. So this is something to really think about. You also have emergency advance payments. So if you are in the same conversation around disability loan, you have to really think about emergency advance payments. So before applying for a disability loan, see if you qualify for emergency advance payments. So the Social Security Administration offers advanced disability payments to qualified individuals based on the severity of their condition, the type of disability they have, and how likely they are to be approved for disability benefits. Okay, because a benefits you don't have to repay it, but a loan you have to repay it. So also known as presumptive disability or blindness payments, they help fund the gap for up to 6 months between the application and approval in emergency situations. So unlike disability loans, they only need to be paid back in the case of overpayment, and you won't be charged interest fees. So let me talk to you about how disability loans work this year, okay? Because if you can qualify for emergency advance payments, advance placement, not payment, emergency advance placements, you may want to look at disability loans or other alternatives. So when you think about a disability loan, this is basically a personal loan you can use for necessary everyday expenses like groceries, bills, or mortgage payments. If your disability has rendered you unable to work, these loans are a short-term financing tool for the few months it takes the Social Security Administration to process your application, and they should not be used as a replacement for disability benefits. Okay, so when it comes to disability loans, you have two types. You have the unsecured personal loan, and then you have the secured personal loan. So the secured personal loan actually are pretty good. The unsecured personal loans actually call for no collateral, so there's no collateral required. So your approval and borrowing limit for an unsecured personal loan to be used as a disability loan is greatly influenced by your credit score and financial health. So here I'm speaking about your income, your cash inflows and cash outflows, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So this is actually the most common option offered by lenders. I'm speaking about unsecured personal loan. Okay, it's the most common option offered by lenders, and you can expect interest rates from just under 7% all the way to 36%. So this is something really good. And you also have secured personal loan. So with secured personal loans, the lender assumes a low financial risk, right? Because you are collateralizing the loan. So this type of loan is easier to qualify for, and the borrowing limit tends to be quite high. Okay, so now should you borrow a payday loan if you are looking for a disability loan? It really depends, because payday loans often have interest rates over 300%. Yeah, 300%, three digit. Okay, they're not a good option for most borrowers. So just be aware of that. And if you do need a payday loan, carefully review the repayment terms and check for scams also. So, who qualifies for a disability loan? In other words, can you qualify for a disability loan in your current situation? The thing is that before applying for a loan, make sure that you have already applied for a disability through the Social Security Administration because this is the main criterion. Okay, lenders are going to look at before qualifying or not qualifying you as a disability loan. Okay, so basically, just make sure that you have already paperwork in the queue at the Social Security Administration. Now, loans are a short term help, not a long term solution, okay? So, this type of disability loan are just a stopgap measure between the time you have to survive on your own and versus when you get funds from the Social Security Administration. So, because a disability loan is a personal loan, approval will be based first and foremost based on the lender in your financial history. So your interest rate, like I said, will be determined by your credit score and income. So your pay stubs, okay, they'll look at your pay stubs. So if you happen to have a excellent credit or a good credit, you can actually qualify for lower rates, okay. But if you are unemployed, if you have bad credit or some kind of a shaky financial situation, your options may be limited, okay. And especially if you don't really meet the lender's other eligibility requirements. So this could be a little problematic, okay? And one thing I want to say here is that you have to understand that the government determines who qualifies for disability based on several factors. And those factors will be too long to explain here. But if you have any question on that front, let me know in the comment section, and I'll certainly explain to you like at length what kind of criteria the government considers before before qualifying you as a quote unquote disability uh, qualified loan or disability case. Now let me talk to you about how to apply for a disability loan. So if you happen to be in a situation where you have applied, you have submitted paperwork to the Social Security Administration, right? And you realize that they take weeks to actually review the application, and you want to survive on your own. In the meantime, you can apply for a disability loan through an online lender, bank, or a credit union. Okay, so it can be the Chases of the world, the Bank of Americas of the world, the Navy Fed on the credit union side, the credit union. Like it really depends. Okay, so with an online lender, for instance, Upstarts, Upgrade, Avon, or Best Egg, your application will likely be processed quickly. And this may be the easiest way to find funding if you're looking for a disability loan. Okay, however, if you are a credit union member or have used a certain bank before, you may want to see if your current financial institution offers discounted fees or rates to their customers. So, one thing for sure, if you are with a bank, it's just better to apply for a disability loan through the bank. Okay. And like if you're with Chase, Chase doesn't offer personal loans anymore. But if you are, let's say, with Bank of America or even Wells Fargo, you can really find something that's actually appropriate for you. So Chase and the Bank of America, among other banks, do not offer personal loans anymore, but they do have other financial products that are similar to personal loans, okay, or disability loan. So you can actually, one thing I want to really say here is that you want to compare top personal loan lenders before actually applying for a disability loan. That way, you can find the best offer for your financial situation. Okay. Don't assume that simply because they're online lenders, they are going to be a cheap. No. Many online lenders now offer pre qualification tools that allow you to see if you meet the eligibility requirements before applying to help you avoid a hard credit check on a loan you may not qualify for, right? It's just that you are really trying to reduce your chances of having a hard pull right away. So, what are the pros and cons of disability loans this year? Because if you're thinking about disability loans, you have to really think about certain, you got to have a certain mindset, really. So, these loans can be useful if you have an immediate need for emergency funding to make ends meet. Let me repeat that. A disability loan can be useful if you have an immediate need for like emergency funding to actually make ends meet. Okay. However, this type of loan should be a last resort if you are able to secure other forms of low cost financing. Because basically, if you have a loan, you may have a strain on your monthly budget, right? Think about that. So the pros and cons when it comes to this disability loan, the pros first, you have quick funding, you have multiple lender options, and you have a loan that may cover emergencies. So when I say a quick funding, with some lenders, you can get approved within minutes and complete the application process from home, really. And you also have multiple lender options. You have a plethora of lenders. I think I've said this before, okay? Banks or credit unions to choose from when it comes to funding a loan that works for you. And this disability loan may help you cover emergencies. So if you are, let's say, unable to work and are waiting for your application to be processed, a disability loan can actually fill that gap, okay? On the flip side, you have potentially high interest rates. So you could get stuck with a high rate depending on your credit, potentially leading to a high interest debt. You also have a payday risk. So many payday type loans are marketed towards those with disabilities, but they typically come with astronomically high interest rates that can keep you in debt for years. You have short repayment terms. So, depending on the lender, you may be given a shorter repayment period, meaning you could have a larger monthly payment with a shorter repayment term than other types of debts. And you also have the risk of losing collateral. So, if you have a secured loan, this could be a problem, okay? If you put up collateral and are unable to repay your loan, you risk losing that assets to the lender. So, something to really think about. So, what are the extras here? So, if you think about disability loans, obviously you got to also think about alternatives to those loans, right? Because there are situations where you may not meet the eligibility requirements for disability loans. So, this is something you have to think about the alternative. Or let's say you don't want to take out a long term loan, okay? So, there are actually alternatives to help cover expenses while waiting for your disability application to be processed, okay? Or if you do not qualify for disability benefits as a whole, because this could happen also. So, what are the alternatives? Well, you have three types actually. Three types, three main types. You have government assistance, you have workers' compensation, and you have cash advances. So, when I say government assistance, this includes programs like cash assistance, SNAP, and welfare and unemployment benefits. You can apply for government assistance and see if you qualify with your state's human service or social services agency. You also have workers' compensation, so you may be eligible for workers' compensation if you have a work related injury or illness, but just make sure that you have a work related injury or illness. The process for filing a claim may differ from state to state, so you want to really research the process and complete all necessary steps. Also, depending on your state's regulation, you may be eligible for additional disability benefits if your injury has deemed you unable for work. And you also have cash advances. So, a cash advance is actually a form of credit card debt, and the money you borrow must be repaid, okay? But the interest rate for cash advances actually is much higher than your regular credit card APR. So, this can be really, if you think about it, an expensive option, especially if you're worried about paying too much in interest rates. Okay, With that in mind, cash advances are accessible and can be done at an ATM or through a bank that actually offers cash advances this year. So basically, one thing I want you to really understand here is that when it comes to the alternatives to a disability loan, besides actually government assistance, workers' compensation, and cash advances, you also have disability insurance, but also loans from families or friends. Okay, this is something that's really a lot of consumers really rely on. So disability insurance is really great in the sense that it pays a portion of your income if you are disabled and unable to work. There are two forms though. You have short and long term, which actually come with different amounts of coverage and waiting periods. So you have the possibility to see what works and what doesn't work for you. So you may be able to sign up for an employer sponsored plan or buying an individual plan from a broker or insurance company. So again, the possibility is there for you to have options. Okay. So that's for disability insurance. You also have loans from families and friends. I mean, it really depends how connected, quote unquote, connected your family is. Okay, because as a last resort, you could ask a trusted family or a friend, family member or friend to lend you money for necessities. So if you choose this method, keep in mind that it could cause rifts in the relationship if you are unable to pay them back when promised. Okay, so be very careful. I mean, usually I don't really advise my listeners to borrow from family and friends because there's a reason why you have banks out there. There's a reason why you have credit unions out there. There's a reason why you have online lenders. Just go through those traditional outlets, traditional platforms to get the funding that you need. Okay, if you want to rely on family or friends, think about folks who can really give you money as opposed to lend you money. Okay, so that's really that's what it is. So as a bottom line, after considering your options, if you decide that a disability loan is the route that you should take, ensure that you have a solid plan in place and the money, you know, to pay down the loan. Okay, so this is important. It's also important also to find the lender that offers you the best rates and terms for your financial needs. I'll have an entire video that focuses on the best disability loans. Okay, not to, so that I don't make this video too long. But hey, listen, if you need more information about disability loans and what type of disability loan could actually be good for you this year, let me know in the comment section, and I'll certainly send you a list of the best disability loans this year based on your situation, like what really caused you to have a disability in the first place, but also where you are at. So your location would also determine, because some loans, for instance, are not available in some states, like some online lenders, for instance. They don't have licenses in all 50 states, so their coverage may be limited. As a recap into this conversation, I spoke to you about disability loans. I give you the overview, the trains, the extras, and now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.